Welcome to my Tabcast podcast, and this is episode 8, where I speak to Katie Haydn Slater. Katie is a single mum to a teenage daughter. She's a natural beekeeper to 3 colonies of honeybees. She's responsible for the Christmas tree at Ely Cathedral, and she's a volunteer at Pets as Therapy and does read to dogs. Previously, in a previous life, she was an interior design project manager in London, and more recently she has created her own nature business, Wildoak Workshops, which is where I met you, didn't I, Katie?
Yeah. Hi there.
So yeah, I'll just say how I met you because it's a funny story. So I'm not quite sure how I think it was during my research year. So I did a year of research where I sort of sought out lots of different lovely workshops and things that I wanted to do to kind of research, do a little bit of market research on what was around my area and a bit further afield, just so I could kind of see what's available and take the best bits of the best ones and learn from the bad stuff of what I saw as well. So I stumbled across Wildoaks, not quite sure where. I thought it probably just was a Google search or something like that.
Yeah.
And kind of booked on and scan read the joining instructions and then turned up on was it a Sunday afternoon?
Yes, it was a Sunday, wasn't it? It was pumpkins.
That's it.
Sort of All Hallows Eve kind of autumn.
Yeah. So I was expecting to go along and to make a autumn wreath type thing, which would look beautiful, and do some pumpkin carving, which was like right up my street. So I turned up in my jeans and in my top, and walked into the nest, which we'll talk about in more detail. And I think I was the last to arrive, which was, a bit bad for me, but walked into this beautiful wooden like log cabin at the end of your garden. And everybody was already seated with on their yoga mats, and there was like candles burning. It was beautiful, really beautiful. And ordinarily I would have been like, oh yeah, this is lush, but I'd forgotten to read. Well, I hadn't read the whole introduction,
yoga bit.
And the first part of the day was a yoga session, and the second part of the day was the pumpkin carving. So I was there in my jeans, and I was just, and the lady who was running it wasn't you who's running it, was it? You did the second.
It's Gemma, yeah.
Yeah. So she sent around this like disclaimer form, I think, or we just had to put our details on it. And I wrote at the bottom of that, I didn't realise it was a yoga class. I've got my jeans on.
And she says, well, don't worry.
Yeah, she did. Well, yeah, but trying to do a half a day of yoga in my jeans was not the best.
Yeah.
But I still had a good experience. It was still good. And the whole day was just real good fun, especially the photos that we took. They were great, weren't they, at the end?
Yes. And everybody made such beautiful things.
Yes, they did. Yeah. So that's your Wildoak Workshops. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, or introduce yourself if you'd like to, and then just tell us a bit about that little bit of your business?
Thank you. Hi, Tabitha. Thank you for inviting me here. And hello to everybody. My name is Katie from Wildoak Workshops. And the little tagline, the reason, is that I reconnect you to nature through my creative workshops. Which essentially means that I love nature, and for me it is my safe place and my inspiration, and certainly where I find solace. But I also love creating things from whatever's happening in the seasons, in the hedgerows or in the woodland. And there's a wonderful sense of achievement when you gather things, particularly when you're smelling and touching and watching nature and listening to the birds as you're gathering, and then bringing it home and making something gorgeous, which you can then keep in your home. And then you can look at it every day and go, I made that. And I think we've forgotten a lot of that wonderful sense of achievement, because life is so fast. There's never an end. There's never a, oh, well done, I'll settle, celebrate that and move on to something else. There's always, yeah, but what else have you done? And when else, when are you going to go on to this? And so I think we've lost that sated feeling of doing a good job.
Accomplishment.
Accomplishment, yeah. I think gets missed.
Also, back in the day when we were more, when times were slower, we would be making bread on a daily basis, which would give us a sense of achievement. We'd be making
marmalade, jam.
all of our food from scratch, wouldn't it? I mean, we'd be growing.
Yeah.
That's the sense of fulfillment that we get from growing our own veg and stuff like that. And everything takes so much longer. But when you're sitting there and eating what you've made or what you've grown, then that gives you more of a sense of achievement as well, doesn't it?
And meals took a little bit longer because that was the whole point of getting everyone together. And if you got up after 10 minutes and sort of just went off when the person who's cooked it has lovingly taken a whole day to make the roast or make the pie or whatever, it'd be really insulting. And you probably wouldn't want to, because it's all about savoring, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where this amazing word mindfulness comes in, which I try and remind myself, because we're all zooming around. We're all, but obviously we've got a little bit more time on our hands now. And so it's quite a good, it's quite a good lesson to remind yourself now to celebrate the really small things. We were talking about trapping myself onto a Hoover all the time because I've got 4 muddy doggies. But actually it is a huge sense of achievement to tidy up your home or to fold things. I mean, there are sort of Japanese ceremonies of folding and honouring your socks and paying homage to your shirts and things. And if we sort of valued things more, maybe we wouldn't buy so much, because you would really love that jumper and you'd hand wash it and you'd fold it and you'd smell it. And
it's a throwaway society, isn't it, where things are just, if it messes up in the washing machine or the tumble dryer, I'll just buy a new one.
Doesn't matter. But where does it go?
It's a shame, isn't it? So do you do your Wildoak workshops all year round then, or are they seasonal?
Yes, so they are exactly like that. They're seasonal. So it always is triggered by me walking in the woods. I walk every day with this pack of hounds I've got, in which case I know this particular wood very well, so I can see when things are changing. And I know that lots of people don't have the opportunity or the time to go out in nature. So I like being their eyes. I can bring it to them in a small way. But the seasons are we're so lucky to have seasons. So many parts of the world don't have seasons, but England definitely does. And I think it really changes people's moods and what colours they wear, and light and dark, and how you're inspired by when the sun comes out. And I think there's such a lot of discussion about it at the moment with us all trapped in our homes.
Yes, definitely.
That again, nature, thank heavens, has shown its, or been able to show its true colours, because we've had time to actually.
It always has, hasn't it? We've just been able to stop and see it.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, my business that the nature business that I have is I've been doing my business plan for it, and my business mentor has said, you're entering into this real buzzword of nature wellness and that sort of thing. And I'm like, but this is what I've always done. It's annoying that, It
is really annoying. It's like, hold on.
We did this. We're not just doing this because it's a buzzword. We've done, it's in our souls, isn't it?
I'd be heartbroken if someone goes, you're just jumping on the bandwagon. I'd just get around the scruff and go, are you kidding me? You know.
Have you any idea how long I've planned this? And it just so happens that, I mean, in a good way, I have coincided with it. You've been around for a bit longer than me, but it does annoy you when it just looks like you sort of sat there and thought, oh, I'm going to start a business. What would be a good one to start? And it's
let's just. I still think though. Even though we might, there might be buzzwords and on message and all those kinds of trend words, it's still alarming how people aren't remotely even connecting, even though you've got David Attenborough. I mean, I think he should be on sort of national broadcast television every day.
Definitely.
Because you know, in the pool that we're swimming in, our friends and you and I, yes, people are aware, but there's awareness and then actually doing something about it.
Yeah, I think it's easy to fall in.
Jump.
Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of assume as well, like you just said, exactly that. Most of my friends are like you and I, and you know, and appreciate nature and spend a lot of time in nature and that sort of thing. But then I sort of, okay, you know, I'll see, for example, on Facebook or something like that, and I'll be like, oh my goodness, these people don't spend any time, and it's not even first on their list. So
No.
who are your customers generally? Do you have a customer type?
Yes, I think it's called an avatar, isn't it? Not a blue person, but your perfect client. Then they're mostly female, although I have had some nice chaps walk down to the nest recently. Yep. Mostly female, mostly over 40 or even over 50, sometimes semi-retired. A lot of them are academics or doctors or professors or some kind of specialist fields, and they are now part-time or they're lecturing or something. And quite a lot of the grandparent generation, because they still hold firm to wanting to get their children or their grandchildren out in the countryside, and often are some of the carers. You know, when you've got workers, you know, the parents wanting to go to work, and who's going to look after the kiddies, and it's the grandparents who are there fundamentally. And what do they do with them? Well, they traditionally want to take them outside, and they still remember leaf paintings and making things with sticks and
and it's probably how they spent a lot of their childhood as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and it seems to have jumped to generation. So yes, I would say female, 40s and above. But wonderfully, some younger girls, young professionals who are working really, really hard. They want to treat themselves and do a bit of creativeness together. So that's what's really lovely.
The group that I joined was like that. They were a lot younger, weren't they? But was that because that was one of my next things I was going to talk to you about, is your collaborations with different people. And I think if you collaborate with, because it's kind of like, I don't know, I wouldn't say a forgotten art, the wreath making, but maybe it is. I don't know if it's sort of, if people would see that as a standalone thing and kind of assume it would be something for older people. But if you collaborate with somebody on something else, that then kind of you pick up a lot of other people because they kind of, well, you know, it's going to be this and this, so it's more accessible. Do you know what I mean? Because people have so many assumptions, don't they? When I used to do my arts classes, people would generally be like, oh, I can't do art, so I can't do it, I'm not gonna go, sort of thing. But and Benson, my partner, was going to say, he used to say, why don't you call it craft, because craft is more accessible to people. But I was a snob, and I was like, but it's not craft, it's art.
and I do know what you mean. But then crafting has got this huge momentum now, because we're all at home, that it's not just older ladies making felt things at all. It's incredible what people are creating. So again,
he was right, really, wasn't he? Because he was, you know, I should have, but it was the snob in me, really, because I was like, it is literally art. It's art. It's not. And I made sure that I wasn't doing craft within it. You know, it wasn't craft, but maybe I would have opened it up to more people if I'd have been less snobby.
I think once we are able to see each other again and get out, you know, there's so many sort of interactive art you can do, which I think people would love. You know, I'd love to do in a sort of expressive, sort of not like splat paintings, you know, just have some paint and orbit and
I did do all of that, and we used to do painting where we'd scream as we threw paint at a canvas.
Lovely.
It was amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Primal scream.
But what I could do now on the land is, because I've got tons of clay, so we could do it with clay. Just throw it around. Yeah.
Swidge it through. There's something amazing. I used to do that with blobs of jelly, when you were able to make your jelly with your mummy. My favorite thing was just to squidge it through my fingers first. I love that.
Yeah, and it's very sensory, isn't it? And I think that would go well, I mean, when I did the last in the summer, the last retreat, the Fenzen retreat that I did, I had clay when we went wild swimming. I had clay, took it down there with me for everyone to like spread on their bodies, but forgot. So we didn't actually get that nice experience.
Like a poultice, like a mud bath.
Because then you could put it on your skin and then jump in the water and get, wash it off. So but I had a golden opportunity there and missed it. So
we'll have to do one together. I've got a river wading workshop I would love to do.
Wow.
Because I've done it. When you go into Aldi and you've got your little list and you're being very controlled, I just need these things on my list. And then you go down that middle aisle. And I came out with 10 pairs of waders.
Why 10 pairs? Oh,
because I thought,
the
rivers where we are, I'm Pentney Abbey. It is relatively shallow, but very beautifully strong flowing, and it has masses of watercress in it.
I was going to say watercress, yeah.
And I've many a time been at full stretch holding onto a tussock of grass, trying to reach out with my boots slowly going down the very steep bank, and I'm going, and then suddenly this goes, and I'm into the river, and very far away from the watercress. Yeah. And so I thought I'll get some waders, so when I got in, it was the most beautiful experience, because you have the river coming up.
Go in as I do wild swimming, so I would have just gone in without, just with a pair of trainers.
Well, my theory was just sometimes people might not want to, and also some people don't like standing on the river bed if it's some people are
sorry.
But there's this wonderful moment when you're standing and you think you're wet because you're in the river, but you're not. You're in waders.
You're dry,
but you can feel the current going past you. But then you put your hands on the top of the river, and you're watching it going past. You've got the willow warblers or reed warblers. They're all going ballistic, going, what are you doing in our territory? You're supposed to be up here on the riverbank, not down there where we are. It's absolutely beautiful, and you just stop. And then, I was thinking of gathering watercress, taking one of those gas hobs down to the riverbank. You can mud up. And then we would make watercress soup by the riverbank. We would have made bread.
Isn't it? Yeah, I'm definitely up for that. That would be a great thing to do.
Yeah, day by the, and it would be called Wind in the Willows. Wind in the Willows. But of course, I mentioned it to my insurance company, so just sort of check it out. And they just went, literally hyperventilating, going, so the water could fill up the wader and somebody could get washed away. But then I thought, it's okay, because I'm going to get a paddleboard from Aldi, which I did, which I adore. Yeah. And so everyone holds on to the paddleboard.
Yeah, I've got one too, so I'll bring mine too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then they put the watercress on the paddleboard.
Yeah.
It's like a tray.
Yeah. And wild watercress as well is just fantastic.
Oh, so delicious.
Is it spring water down there then at Pentney? Oh my goodness.
Yes, because it comes from Spring Lane in Marham. And I know that they've put traces in that water which have come under the water table from Iceland. It's so cold, and it's hence why it's called Spring Lane, because traditionally it's where all of the villagers would come to collect their water, because it has such beautiful qualities or clarity.
Did you know there's an app called Find a Spring?
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah. I try not to tell too many people, she says on her podcast.
Yeah.
But, Yeah, because I love going to visit springs, and so it just tells you where
Gorgeous.
all the springs are around you on a map, and then because there's a lovely one in Sedgefield, I think it's called. Is that near Hunstanton, Sedgefield? Near
Sedgeford.
Sedgeford, yeah, yeah, which would make sense, yeah. There's a lovely one there. I went to that last spring with girls and took some beautiful photographs of them standing in this crystal clear water, and you kind of have to go across a like a bit of, well, there's a public footpath there, but you know, you feel like you're in on someone's land because they don't make it clear that you're allowed to go across there. But yeah,
That's good though. Yeah, we like that. That's why I love Norfolk, because I describe Norfolk as a rock pool. You know, you've got to turn back quite a lot of rocks
to
find beautiful things. You've got to work quite hard, but when you find it, just keep going back. You know, that little cafe in Stiffkey, for example.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Post office there, and just little places, little magical places.
Yeah, I think as newcomers as well, although I was born in Norfolk, but I didn't live here. You know, I've moved around a lot and mostly lived in Suffolk and Cambridgeshire. But I was born here. But I think as someone who's new to Norfolk, I think, you know, I do lots of adventuring, going out and discovering different places and that sort of thing, because I think, you know, I always see myself as a newcomer here, and there's so much to discover, isn't there?
So much. My dad gave me a whole collection of his old Ordnance Survey maps. And I love the smell of them, and they're all the creases and everything. And then when I open it up into the areas around here, I just love looking at the names of the villages and the names of the areas, you know, and sort of Stoat Pit Fen or something, you know, and you start looking at all the names and why, and all
exactly wondering why. Gibbet Lane, is it Gibbet or Gibbet, where they used to hang people?
Oh, Gibbet, I think it is.
There's lots of Gibbet lanes, isn't there, around? Sort of, it brings up real, like, real images of what happened down that lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that.
Drunken Drove, there's in Massingham, isn't there?
Yes.
I like driving down it. Just I've said gone down Drunken Drove.
I took a photograph of Benson outside and near that sign.
Yeah, it's just brilliant.
Yeah. There's we stayed in the Dabbling Duck there, which is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Gorgeous. And they've done absolutely brilliantly over lockdown.
What do they do?
Amazing pizzas. They built a whole thing at the back with these beautiful fire pit pizzas and bars, and it's all, you know, you come in this way and you go out that way, and little cardboard box with the stamp of the Dabbling Duck.
Do you know what? All these inns and pubs and things have been very resourceful, haven't they? With their businesses. Yeah. I've just gone into like hibernation. I haven't been very resourceful at all. Because you did your wreath in a box as well over Christmas, didn't you?
I did, and I was really, really excited about that, and that's what I'm going to be doing for Mother's Day and Easter.
Yeah.
I've got some ideas coming up with that. I mean, it's still heartbreaking because actually I've selfishly created Wildoak Workshops so that I can meet people, because I'm not a local. I've been up here for about 10, 11 years. And fascinated with people and what are they doing here and how do they get here and how long have they been here. Yeah. And so to create the workshops is to get people together.
Yeah.
And so yes, I will be doing things in a box. Brilliantly, the company Wildoak Workshops initials are WOW. So it's
yes. How clever.
Wow in a box. So you've been wowed or having a wow moment.
That's so clever. Did you realise that when you created it?
No, and it's only when I wrote it down and went, oh my God,
why
it's oh wow.
Mine's probably third or something like that.
I was going to have a wow day, because what I find now with a lot of the Facebook pages of groups up here and women in business groups and a lot of the sort of places which are wonderful events that you can tell people about what's happening in your business.
Yeah.
I sort of describe them as little circles, and none of them interconnect. They're all these little. And I'm a real cross-pollinator. I'm some people are quite sort of hoarding of their friends and they don't want to share.
Yeah.
I spend an awful lot of time. I love going, oh, you've got to meet, and I'll send the details. I won't just say something.
No, you don't.
I'll send the details.
Yeah,
and not only that,
I describe myself as a community maker in a bio that I had to do, and that same sort of thing is like like you say, I like
cross-pollinate.
And you introduced me to Liz and Claire, and I'm doing the Madhatters Festival now.
Yes. So yes, me too. I've got to get some copy over to darling Claire, who's absolutely, I don't know how she has any time to sleep. I don't think she does sleep. I think there's probably about 10 of her.
Hopefully that will go ahead.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We'll have to do positive sun dances to get it all together.
Because I was talking to her and I said, oh, it coincides with summer solstice, so I'm not sure, because I normally do something on summer solstice with my own company. And she was like, oh, does it? And I was like, yeah, it's the 21st of June.
Yeah.
And she was like, I didn't actually realise. She said, this is great that it's like coincided with that. You know, that was a really
meant to be, hopefully.
Yes, yeah. But I've kind of decided I'd do that rather than my own summer solstice thing, because I think it'll be good to be part of that, and I want to support her as well. So
yeah,
it looks like a good event, doesn't it?
And also, I know you probably want to do summer solstice on the solstice, but there's still sort of a wonderful feel in the air either side day of it or the week of it. You know, I did a autumn abundance the week before the autumn equinox and afterwards, because it worked at Ely Cathedral. I do workshops, or it just all worked in the dates, and so it was quite nice to actually take the pressure off, like sort of New Year's Eve party.
Yes,
it's quite, sometimes it's
but I know towards, isn't it?
Moon alignments and things, but
it's a nod towards this kind of the celebration of the festival, isn't it, rather than having to do it on the actual day. So you say about Ely Cathedral. So do you want to tell us a bit about the things that you do for Ely Cathedral, which is a massive, if people listening don't know, just Google it and you'll see that Ely Cathedral is a massive cathedral in local, it's Cambridgeshire city of Ely.
Yes, because you have to call it a city, don't you, when it has a cathedral in it. And it's also called the Ship of the East, because in medieval times onwards, the whole of that area of Cambridgeshire was water. So this amazing hill with this incredible stone structure, you could see, you could pilgrimage, you could walk towards it because you could see it.
Yes, it's so flat around here, isn't it?
And so flat, exactly, before they drained it all when we were influenced by the Dutch. But I've always been drawn to Ely Cathedral. Maybe it's because of the honey-coloured stone, but when I first went in there, it didn't have this intimidating feel about it at all. It was just very relaxed, welcoming. Just come here and take a pew and sit, and you can be quiet or take part, or it's not a judging.
It's not churchy, is it?
It's not churchy at all. And then my daughter goes to a school there, and so I do spend a little bit of time going down there. But when I first moved up here, I created a florist company based in my home. And one of the things which was really popular was doing Christmas wreaths. And we would take Christmas wreaths to various Christmas fairs in Norfolk and East Anglia. And one of the key ones is the Ely Cathedral Christmas Fair. And you hope to God that you are going to be chosen because there's a massive waiting list. Anyway, thank heavens they had never had Christmas wreaths there before. So I was able to have a lovely stall right by the altar with my beautiful 5 choices of wreaths. Wow. And it was one of the fantastic members of staff who was running the whole thing with a sort of walkie-talkie called Joss. I was wearing a pair of brown boots, which actually I got from a charity shop, but I knew I was going to be standing in Cathedral for 4 days on very cold floors, so I needed to have some sensible shoes. And she said, nice boots. And at that point, we just sort of hit it off, and she got me a cup of tea because she was checking all the store holders. And then she said, well, I've got to go because I've got to go and pick up my daughter from school. And my ear sort of pricked up, went, oh, she has a daughter too. And so we worked out that we were both recently divorced, found ourselves in Ely or around and about, and had daughters very similar age.
Oh,
so weirdly, I didn't take her full name or anything, but that was in the November. In the January, I sort of stood there, having been here for a couple of years. I stood in my house and I said, right, how am I going to make friends?
Oh,
I don't know anybody up here.
No.
And this girl, Joss, I really just made a connection with. And so I sent an email to the marketing team of Ely Cathedral, sort of I've never done it before, going, my name's Katie, and there's a really lovely lady called Joss. I was wondering if you could forward my details because I'd like to have a coffee and get our girls together. And thankfully, she said yes.
Oh, that's a
really
lovely
sweet
story.
So she is now.
It's like when you connect with somebody, it's something very not rare, but it's like something you want to hold on to because it doesn't always happen, does it?
No, it's and particularly in this county where we're all in cars zooming around, so there's not much hanging about and just sipping each other and hi, you can't just pop to have a coffee because that's a 40-minute commitment, of where and when.
Yeah,
she is now wonderfully head of events at Ely Cathedral. Very important job. And we are now really good friends. And I have a problem with saying no. So when Katie, by the way, I was just wondering, the wonderful lady who's been doing our Christmas tree for many years is going to step down. I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind whether you'd like to be interested in decorating it every Christmas. I'm like, God, I'd love that. Thank you so much.
That is a massive tree, though.
I started to sort of, the penny dropped, or it suddenly dawned on me what a massive responsibility.
Yes.
Logistically, it is.
There's so many expectations on that tree every year.
Oh yeah, and there's 4,000 baubles.
Oh my goodness.
4,000 lights, 32 or between 30 and 32 foot tree.
You have to do it different every year then?
Well, lots of things had to change. The wonderful lady before was incredibly generous and would I think she just adored buying more Christmas decorations, which aren't these tiny ones, which are like the same size as your head, and they're not 3 or 4. They've got to be like 80 of it, And she was just unbelievably generous to the cathedral, and she was constantly buying. So I said, well, look, I'm not in a position to do that. I can give my time with total love, but I can't be responsible. She also bought the tree, which is not 50p, I can tell you that much. Hugely generous. There are thus these incredibly generous human beings, and she is one of them. So that had to be looked at as well. But there is a fantastic support system within the cathedral of volunteers and friends and all sorts of different people who donate or give money when they pass away. And so the friends now very kindly buy the tree. But I have still got to find it. And there are not many 30-foot trees wandering around, because 30 foot takes 30 years to grow.
Yeah.
A year. And so we've had to go further and further afield to find said tree.
You might get a nice little trip to Norway this year then.
I don't think I'll be allowed,
No,
so we have found the most incredible family. I'm sure he's this fantastic sort of Viking guy who comes out of his bashed up Land Rover with a beautiful liver and spotty pointer.
Yeah.
And he's definitely looks like a Viking or Nordic. Maybe I've just gone off on
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Added
He's
in.
very, very tall, and I think he's called Ike or something. So I'm positive he's, ancient tree man. And he and his family of many, many generations have this huge plantation. And so I go and I choose her, I believe, and I hug her and I ask permission and let her know, would it be all right if you came to Ely Cathedral and made thousands of people happy? And she does a little shake, a couple of squirrels fall out, and the time comes that she then is brought there. And so I make her even more beautiful.
You have to take it all down again at the end of the season then?
Yes, then there is the debaurbling ceremony as well.
And wrapping everything in tissue paper.
And then it goes up to this most amazing word called the triforium, which is up in the top of the arches of the cathedral, where many, many beautiful things are kept, including my Christmas decorations.
Does your daughter help you to do the decorating or anything?
She doesn't, because she's normally in school. But the other thing I mentioned to darling friend Joss is, no, I cannot be in the cathedral until 4 a.m. One person with one wonderful verger in investments often on the cherry picker at full stretch.
Yes.
For like 7 days, because the lovely lady who I took over, she said, well, you'll just have to put your child in boarding school and the dogs will just have to go to the kennels. I'm sorry, but it's commitment. Are you ready? And I'm like, okay. But I thought, there's no way I can do this,
No.
So I said, Joss, for the first time ever, can I ask for help? Which is something I never ever do.
Especially something like that. It's like asking your children to help you decorate the Christmas tree, I should imagine, because they're just going to be baubles everywhere. Yeah,
and you have to be really quite relaxed about it. Yeah. And she said, well, gosh, that's never been offered before. And yes, we have at least 1,000 volunteers, friends, helpers of the cathedral, all devoted to the cathedral, who I know would be absolutely desperate to help. So my next job is then to create the lists and the timetables, so everyone has a little go.
Yes, gosh.
And they are
do that this year with social distancing.
Yeah, so we then had to send the word out going, I'm sorry, guys, it's not going to happen this year. And there's a lot of sort of weeping and crashing disappointment, but they understood. So it was just me, brilliantly, on St. Andrew's Day with Andrew the verger, perfect, doing it all. And I took the doggies in because Ely Cathedral is doggy friendly. Yes. So they just pad about and say hi to everybody, and it was amazing because it was just Andrew and I and some other clergy, so it was like pin drop silence. It was absolutely beautiful.
I bet it was. Do you know what I reckon? How long have you been doing it?
So this is my 3rd year.
Ooh. I reckon then that weirdly our paths may have crossed before I actually met you at the Wildoak Workshops, because I sat and breastfed Bambi, 2 years old, and watched people decorating the Christmas tree.
That would have been what?
Yes. How weird is that?
How gorgeous. And Ely Cathedral.
We were supposed to meet.
All together.
Yes. We were supposed to meet.
Well then, that's the law of attraction we were talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. That's weird. That's I don't know how I haven't managed to kind of think about that before, because we have talked about the Christmas trees before, haven't we? It's just reminded me. So what brought you to Norfolk from London? You say I said in the intro that you had a previous job as a interior design project manager, so that must have been interesting. That was my job that I wanted to do when I was at school. That was my career goal, was an interior designer.
Well, I mean, it didn't even exist. There wasn't even a terminology when I was at school about interior design. But yes, I call it BS, before Sophie, my life before Sophie. She's going to be 15 soon. But yeah, it's like a different dimension. I was based in London, and beautiful clients, mostly Swedish actually, because my boss was Swedish, and she would have the original concept blue.
Wow.
And then I would do everything else. I describe myself like a sort of spider in a web. So I would be talking to builders, talking to specialist designers. I'd be talking to the client, I'd be talking to my boss. So it was multi-dimensional, I had a lot of Yorkie bars to bribe and cajole and praise all the builders, of which we often had 2 teams, 24 hours. That's how fast we had to turn around houses, because we're dealing with clients who are very, very high level of requirements. Yeah, very demanding. I had one story, just to give you an idea, a lovely gentleman who was slightly height challenged. He was also OCD, absolutely didn't like touching dirty things, and they would wash it afterwards. So when we were doing his bathroom and shower room, he didn't want to have any taps anywhere.
Oh. So how would he get
rid of them? So everything had to be infrared beams.
Oh, the swish
of spouts and things. So my lovely plumber, what was his name? Paul. We had to work out where to put the infrared beam for him to walk through to trip it, to then make the bath or the shower turn on to exactly the right temperature, so that by the time he got there, it was exactly the right temperature.
Wow.
So I regularly had sort of plumbers in boxer shorts soaking wet with a thermometer.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, I know, bless me.
Gosh, that's high end, that is, isn't it?
That's high end. But the Achilles heel was on Christmas Eve. Lovely client. His family had gone to some gorgeous place, and he was left in London, and he had a streaming cold. So he wasn't going to Christmas, wherever it was. No. And he wanted to have a extra hot shower or bath.
Yes.
Of course, how can you? There's no.
Can't
crank up that. No. So I then got a call on Christmas Eve. Katie, I need a hotter shower.
Oh no.
Right. Well, I'm in Sussex with my family now, and Paul, my lovely plumber, is in Oxfordshire.
Yes.
But
boil the kettle.
Yeah. So I had to call Paul. Paul, do you mind? And he goes, no problem at all. And so he drove all the way back on Christmas Eve to go down to the main boiler system to
adjust it. Adjust the temperature. Gosh, that sets my mummy antenna off, because it would be like, it could be too hot for a baby, couldn't it? So luckily
we tried all of this, but they wanted to have highly polished floors, because so many people started going abroad to very, very smart hotels, and everything is like immaculate. Well, to sustain that kind of level, you need like 5,000 staff coming out of every cupboard.
Yes.
And also it's totally pointless to have polished floors when you've got children with socks.
And water in the mix.
Yeah, so we had many a moment when, children were just going...
And
so, we had to explain to the
thing is, style, if it's stylish, it's not safe, is it? You have to choose style over safety sometimes. Or safety over style. Nowadays.
So, there was many a practical conversation.
Yes, I bet.
With the client,
To work with the Swedish as well, that's my favourite style.
They're gorgeous people.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it was often the females who had the cash.
Yeah.
They were the shipping tycoon family daughters, and they were all working. They were all like maybe lawyers or solicitors or something.
Yes.
And then they had married somebody and had moved to London for a short amount of time. And they were beautiful. I mean, they just never age. I mean, they look so absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I worked in Sweden when I first left school. I worked in Sweden, and
oh, did you?
Yeah, stayed in a farmhouse, which was they were very wealthy. They employed me to look after their dogs, and they only had 2 dogs. And they had a nanny for the children,
Wow, lucky you.
Twiddling my thumbs over there. But they had a farm, and I used to like haul hay and stuff like that, and it was lovely, a really, really good experience. But their house was just whitewashed. Everything was white, exactly as you would imagine a Swedish house to be, apart from the children's toys that were colourful. But they had, like, the one thing I always wanted to replicate, they had a swing inside the house.
Oh, lovely.
I was always like, oh, that's I'd love to have that in my house, an indoor swing.
And it's because it's so huge, though, you know.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
do it in your bar houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick out a cooker and a child,
so You're happier in Norfolk? You're in,
yes.
The right move to make, was it?
Yeah, so we came up here as second homers, but Sophie was only about 1.5, 2, and I had lost all sense of reality becoming a new mummy. Husband was working very hard. It all sounds absolutely gorgeous, but in the end, we sadly decided to divorce because I couldn't be up here with Sophie in isolation, and he was down there, and we sort of bump into the weekends, you know.
Yeah.
I know lots of people do it, but I found it just impossible.
Yeah.
So when we were divorcing, I didn't need to be anywhere particular because I could see that I was going to be 95% of childcare. You know, lovely, lovely daddy, but you know, he's a busy chap in finance, and you know, normal childcare wasn't, you know, top of his list of things.
No.
So I said, well, look, I'm going to stay up here. I'm going to
put your roots down up here. Yeah. And
so therefore, when your world sort of shrinks to toddler time,
yes,
the walks out in your woodland, particularly if they're crying or upset or tired, you know, right? If we go out into the woods, that was my absolute relief and release. And then they're so sweet because they start picking up a twig or picking up an acorn, and actually it stops you, and then you start noticing. And because you're just sitting on a log feeding another snack, you do actually start noticing a bird, or you know, see a little bird drop onto a log just over there, and it does make you stop. Actually, I definitely wanted her to know all about, and I realized then when I started to bring up a child, all of the books and everything which inspired me were Wind in the Willows, All Creatures Great and Small, Gerald Durrell, any type of nature program. That's what Sophie would watch with me. And if I was making supper, I would sort of pop her onto, you know, Blue Planet or something. I would often forget though, because killer whales do eat seals and things. So you had the Mummy, the killer whales eating the seal. And I'm like, oh God, supper's ready.
Have that with Bonnie. She'll watch it, and then she'll just be in floods of tears because
the lion cub's been, oh dear. Yes. And you do get that all animals have to eat each other.
Yeah, and I do say that. I'm saying, you know, it is nature. So does Sophie still have a good attachment to nature now?
She does. We've agreed that she's not as mud embracing as I am. I mean, I love gardening, you know, and I'm just happy to be, you know, up to my knees in the garden or nature, whereas she is a little bit more tidy mouse. But she started to really recognise how important it is to get out, particularly when you're doing online learning, how important it is to get out, walk around the garden, inhale, look at the sky. So I put lots of bird feeders in the tree in front of her window so that she can watch them. And but she did say when they were doing sort of what's the Darwin's, you know, all the different crustaceans and mollusks and all of that. Selection, species.
Yeah.
She basically was brilliant.
Teach it.
Yes, sorry, I know. So she used to put her hand up all the time going, yeah, that's a mollusk. Yeah, that's a crustacean. Yeah, that's a arachnid. And she did come back.
Classification, it's called.
Thank you. Phew. She did come back when she was about sort of 8 or 9. She goes, Mommy, that was all to do with you.
Yes, it was all in there somewhere, wasn't it?
All of those nature programs, and anything to do with marine biology, anything to do with reefs and anything like that. Yeah, I could watch nature programs on a constant loop.
Does she have any idea what she wants to do when she leaves school?
She has just started her GCSEs, and she's doing geography and business studies and photography as her 3 extras. Yeah. And she, at the moment, is really interested in environmental law.
Oh, wow. That would be cool.
And anything to do with environment. And is taking
those seeds, haven't you, that have...
Yeah, and is taking photographs of light and nature and reflections and things like that. The photographer teacher is brilliant. One of those really inspiring art dudes with a beard, and he's got a lot of...
That's so important, isn't it? Who teaches stuff? It's so important.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, thank God for that. So he really thinks outside the box, and he's definitely triggered her.
Oh, that's good.
Which is good. So we shall see.
Absolutely crucial, isn't it? So talking of inspiration, who inspires you?
Well, the main man, David Attenborough.
Yeah. I thought you said me for a second. No.
Sorry. Sorry, Tabitha, you really inspire me. You do, though, treasure. But sorry, David Attenborough, and he's my main inspiration. I don't know what anybody else has said, but I hang on his every word. I think he should be much stronger with his thoughts. He needs to
be on a better platform, doesn't he?
I know he's done that extinction film recently, which I think was through Netflix, so he was able to voice it a lot more. But as we were saying before we came on air, I think there's like still huge asleep apathy, and our friends and maybe the Facebook or the Instagram feeds, which get algorithms popped to us. Yeah, it's all gorgeous, isn't it? But Sophie's called the litter bug at school because she's the only person who picks up litter, and they're going, why are you doing that? She goes, because of the planet, because it's it could be eaten by an animal, and anyway, that person shouldn't have dropped it in the first place. And
it's a fundamental lack of respect to the planet, isn't it? Dropping litter. It just shows you don't care.
Yeah. But I mean, you're telling your darling daughters right from the word go. How is it that those are nice parents? No disrespect to the parents, but
it's just about priorities, isn't it? And our priority is nature. I would say the planet, but I don't want to be, Benson is more pro planet than I am. I am pro planet, but I've always I joined Greenpeace when I was 12.
Did you? Yes.
Yeah, and became vegetarian at 12.
Yeah.
And I knew back then it was a very strange thing to do at the time. It was like I knew it when I was like 7. I knew I wanted to be self-sufficient when I grew up. That was my goal. And I'm like, how did I think of that at the time? What was I? Who was I influenced by?
Who sowed that seed? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anyone did. I think I must have been like reincarnated or something.
Yeah, or you've gone to the future and come back again.
Yeah, I don't know, because none of my family. I mean, my dad is very much into nature and photography and that sort of thing, and he did have a big sort of group of encyclopedias about all different places in the earth, and I used to love looking at them, and kind of like, 'cause there wasn't the internet back then, was there?
And I wish the internet wasn't around. Yeah, thumbing through books and reading the word magma when you talk about volcanoes, I get terribly excited about volcanoes and with fire. is so
Bonnie loves volcanoes.
exciting.
Yeah, I think it just brings it to life more in a book, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, I think you own it more.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. Well, we've recently
Going
on something completely different. We've recently had some photographs printed out. We've gone back to the traditional photograph printing out, and that's like Benson was looking at them like, I can actually, these are really like tangible, and like I can remember so much more looking at this photograph than seeing it on a screen. You know, it's just weird how having it printed out in front of you is just so completely different.
Your whole world just sits in here.
Yeah.
You know, and I can tell when I stopped doing that, you know, when Sophie was little, when she was about 3, I've got like big frames which I would print off from her birthday and cut them all up into little things and stick, you know, bits of cake wrapping or whatever that happened on that event. And I haven't done that because it was when you got your first iPhone or your first photo phone. Smartphone,
yeah.
I've got on the top of my dresser here, I've got a piece of glass and I put pictures underneath them.
Oh yes, how lovely.
Which is, and a friend of mine did that on window ledges. You just get a piece of glass cup, which is really not too expensive. Then you can just put lots of pictures underneath everything.
Yes, just to keep them more sort of, you know, so everyone can see them and you can see them. They're not tucked away in a phone sort of thing.
No, and it triggers all sorts of chats.
Yes, conversation starters. So, shall we talk about your dogs?
Mad dog lady? Yes.
Have we got time to talk about your dogs, because it's a massive subject, isn't it?
Yes. Dogs and bees. Dogs.
Oh yeah, we haven't even touched on bees.
I know. The workshop I really, really want to do this year is Just Bee.
I should have contacted you when I needed a name for my business, really, shouldn't I? Because you could.
I love Ben's name. I think it's flipping amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just Bee. And yes, people can meet the bees, because I had a lovely friend beekeeper, lived down the road from you actually, in Upwell, and he's the bee guru of East Anglia, and he's moved to France, so he had lots of beekeeping suits secondhand that he was getting rid of. So I went down and bought a whole bunch of different sizes for a small amount of money. And so it was just to understand the magic of what goes on inside a bee hive.
Yeah.
You need to become a beekeeper and all of that, but you know, fascinating. So I wanted to talk all about, and how flipping fundamental it is to support our bees. Be aware of these beautiful things. So I thought, Just Bee, you know, we can make candles and we'll make honey cookies, and you know, we'll talk about different types of honey and all the healing properties and all that kind of thing. But also you can have a chance just to smell a bee frame and feel the heat of it, you know, and the weight of a frame of honey.
Yes. Yeah, that would be lovely. I use the Denver honey, the raw Denver honey, to make lip balm.
Oh, lovely.
And bee wax from Lawson's Market Gardens, which is, they're all within, Lawson's is about...
Where's Lawson's? Yeah.
That is in, I think it's Terrington St Clement.
Oh yeah, sort of diagonally across.
Yeah. But I haven't lived here very long, so I'm not quite sure of the different places. It's either St Clement or St Lawrence, but so he's got a market garden. He does it all no dig and organic gardenings and that, and he gets veg.
Yes, I'm learning about this no dig. It's such a logical way of thinking.
I know, and so much easier as well.
So much, particularly in clayey soils. But
so that's what we do, no dig. We've got a vegetable patch on our land and we do no dig. And we did do veg boxes last year, but because it was our first year, we had to supplement our veg with other places. So we went to get some from Lawson's. But this year, majority of last year, sort of towards the end, we had our own stuff coming through, and then we were able to sell some as well. And
Well
then
done.
that's our plan, is to get to be able to sell more, and then to have our community garden so that people can come onto the land to grow their own stuff.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if everybody's growing, then hopefully they'll be able to put the surplus in, and then we can sell the surplus. And then when there's surplus that doesn't sell, or not sure really how it's going to be, because I want it to be like a fresh food exchange, so that a bit of a food bank, so people who don't normally get access. Yeah.
Oh yes, great idea. More of a food bank. Yeah.
Maybe kind of just giving it to like old people's homes and schools and that sort of thing, if there's a particular surplus of something, but all grown on the land. And if other people want to bring stuff that they've got surplus of as well, then we can help to.
And that's a really good idea. Apples is a huge one.
Yeah, we made cider last year with a lot of surplus.
Yes, cider and fruit juice, because a lot of children don't know what cloudy apple juice is.
No,
they only know clear apple juice with masses of sugar in it from concentrate.
Yes, exactly. Well, we spent hours and hours and hours in our garden last year doing the apples, and I swore I'd never look at another apple again, but you kind of forget like having a baby.
Just for your reference, I know it removes the pressing ceremony. I know how gorgeous that is, but there are amazing companies in Norfolk which will take all your apples, press, but crucially pasteurize and bottle. Therefore, it lasts for a year.
Yes.
So you get your bottle back with your gorgeous mix of apples, because you just shove them all in.
Yeah.
And then you can label them with your brand. For I think it's £1 or something per bottle, £1.75.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing, and most importantly, probably relevant to the grown-ups watching today, you can split it between apple juice and cider.
Yeah.
So you can go with small bottles of cider, big bottles of apple juice. So
vice versa.
And it's instant. And you go and get the crates, because they've got to be special sized crates to go into the press.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Go and get the crates, bring them back, fill them up, take them back again. They do it all within a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then you've got a product which will last for a year.
Yes.
That's the one thing.
Fermenting in the garage. I think Benson's had some of it, but it's still in demijohns and things. But yeah, it was our first year. Well, actually our second making cider, but it's something that
I'm sure it'd be absolutely delicious. Yeah.
He's very much into things being as pure as they possibly can, and and as organic as they can. And so tonight I cooked pizza for the girls, because he doesn't like things like that processed, or he's not allowed to have any palm oil in and stuff like that. So
yes,
I said
palm oil is a nightmare. It's everywhere.
It really is
everywhere. No chocolate has got palm oil now, other than some maybe vegan wonderful ones. But,
and I do try, and like I said, I do, I'm kind of more of a realist, but there's a lot of, in some other people's books, I am very eco-friendly, and I'm very alternative and that sort of thing. And, there's lots of things that I don't use. And, my company is not plastic free, but we work towards being plastic free. All my products that I make are in recyclable and recycled and eco. But
you have to walk the walk, don't you? Talk the talk.
Yeah, you need to. I mean, your lifestyle from the outside looking in, you're basically bathing in nature as and when you can. That's kind of like quite therapeutic, and must be a lovely way to lead your life. But you also are running a small business, so there's going to be times of stress. So how do you find time to get relaxed or to switch off?
I certainly know that if I don't go out in nature every day, I very quickly struggle. Definitely I call it corkscrew mind. I just can't turn it off at all. Thankfully I have doggies who need to be walked all the time, but sometimes when I'm really, really busy, I am delegating that, and I've got a great girlfriend who's a dog walker. And so she will take them out. But so if I miss that, which is great, because that reduces the stress of the worry of the dogs, I do miss then going out in nature. So as long as I can walk for about half an hour, I am fine. But sometimes I do get incredibly stressed, and I have to talk to myself and tell myself to stop and sit down and get a piece of paper and write down, why am I so stressed?
Yes.
Because at that point, I've just got a mesh of things going on in my head. And, you know, people go, oh, Katie, you take on too much, or, you know, just do the most important things, prioritize. And, you know, I just want to grab them around the scruff and go, well, they all need doing, you know.
Yes.
And it's just me. And if I don't do it, there is no one to delegate to. So I can't ask for help, blah, 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 buck stops with me, which most of the time I love, because then if something doesn't go according to plan, I can unravel it and go, aha, as opposed to, you know, you saying this and I saying that, and there's sort of blame culture. I can work it out very quickly.
You're like me, you're a lone wolf.
I have. I've done 2 partnerships and they didn't work. And you could say, I don't think I am. You could say, oh, you're a control freak, Katie. You're obsessed. But I firmly believe in gut instinct, and I'm a very visual person. I can visualize a workshop. I can visualize how it will go from beginning to end.
Yeah, me
or
too.
I can visualize how I built Wildoak Workshops. Yes, I'll do all of the structural, you know, the to-do lists and everything, but I've got it in my head. And what I then find, yes, or somebody goes, I don't think that's going to work, is it? And have you thought about it like that? And I just can't, because I've already got the puzzle is complete, it's done. And I normally get out in the garden, and dig something or rip something out. I love ripping and I love burning. Definitely sort of druid pagan rituals I love. And so
chopping wood.
Or I'll create something. So I'll go out into the garden and I'll go and grab some greenery. I will normally put it in a circle. I don't always do wreath workshops, but there is something very peaceful about creating a circular shape.
Circles are very powerful. That's why we do the women's fire circles. Because women in a circle is even more powerful.
Oh, I can't wait to come. I definitely need to celebrate my femininity, because I've spent many years sort of dulling it down and you know, worried about what you look like and responsibility of your shape, and mostly actually from women more than men. I tell you, it's really powerful as well, is a silent circle. Oh, lovely. I'd love to. I'd love to do
that. You wouldn't think so, but I mean, you obviously don't just come and then just be silent. Things are said first and then it becomes silent. The power within the silence is amazing. So that's something we're going to be doing as well.
Well, so, put me in.
Yes, thank you. I think we will leave the story of the dogs for another.
Yes, the shaggy dog stories. Yeah.
Because it's so interesting, it could fill another podcast, I think.
Definitely about animals and human connection.
Because you do
dogs and bees. We can do another time.
Because you do the therapy dogs, but you also I met you in the forest, didn't I, recently, and you had 2 little dogs that you'd rescued from, where was it?
Hounds, Greek harehounds.
From Greece.
It's gorgeous.
So that's something that I don't really want to rush, but I'm also aware of your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So just as a last question that I always ask everybody is the question, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Yes, and you mentioned that you were going to ask me that, and I got very teary very quickly. Because I felt so protected, maybe because Sophie is coming up to 15, that it's actually very relevant age.
Yes.
I've written it down. I want to say to her, me, me, you are doing brilliantly. Everything you do is all experiences, not wrong or right, success or failure. It is rounding you and adding to the ingredients of you.
Yes.
Always be kind and polite to everyone and anyone, because you never know when you will meet them again.
No, that's so true. Yeah. And I think that it's very, like, my boys will say, oh, I've done this wrong, I've done that wrong. And I'm like, I was talking about this in a recent podcast about the feelings of shame and doing anger and doing things wrong, and the guilt more than anything. And I always say to them, which is kind of what you're saying there, is that, you know, all of these different emotions are emotions that we have to feel, and, you know, they are part of the rich fabric that make up human beings. And I think it's really quite not dangerous, but it doesn't do you any service if you ignore them, or if you kind of try and push them away. Like, if you're feeling guilty, I think you should not push it away. I think you should think, okay, why am I feeling guilty, and kind of deal with it. Deal with anything that comes your way, you know, and don't think, I mustn't feel angry, I mustn't feel angry, because I think every emotion is so important, isn't it?
There's a lot of discussion about that particularly females suppress one's emotions because it's weak to be emotional, you know. And of course we are hormonal too, which I pretty much 100% of the time forget about my monthly cycle.
Yes.
We'd love to have a conversation about that. I'd love to learn
that's
from
a circle
you
as well.
But we are so creative and so empathetic, and have this sort of amazing peripheral emotional vision, which guys often don't have. And that shouldn't, therefore that's emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Which always has negative connotations. Oh, she's gone off on one, she's stroppy. Well, no, I'm just very angry about what you've said, or I'm very annoyed about how you've made me feel. Or and so you're right, not to suppress one's emotions. But I certainly listen to my gut a lot more now. Maybe because I've done more, that I can see that type of person coming towards me, and I've got a little bit better at clocking who I'm going to get on with, or who I have to work harder at, or who I just need to remove myself from forever.
It's listening to your heart as well as your gut, isn't it? It's listening to your intuition, like you say, and learning to trust it.
Yes, and even to listen to it at all. And that sick feeling is your alarm bells. It's just something you don't want to have. How do I stop that? Oh, that's because I'm worried about that, or embarrassed about that. Why? So you're right not to suppress it, because I think essentially it will get sent to you again and again and again. That same type of person or that time situation will get to you again and again and again until you get the hang of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like reincarnation emotions. You know, you're going to have to
within your life,
or not. And I think if I knew that, and I didn't think I was failing, then it wouldn't have so crippled me so much when I was younger. Which I definitely want to impart to Sophie, because then I would have tried more things. I would have done more things.
Fear of failure, isn't it?
Fear of failure. God, it is absolutely crippling, to the point where I have a dictionary here and I've cut out 2 words: perfect and failure. Because they shouldn't exist.
No.
There should be, and once you start looking at everything as experiences, there's a inevitability. It's like, oh, well, that's good, because whatever I'm going to do tomorrow, I'll either learn from an experience which will grow me because it was a difficult experience, or I will expand and learn from it because it was a wonderful experience, and I'll be able to share that with others. nothing is bad. Nothing is a wrong experience.
Yeah, exactly. I think I kind of, because I kind of brought myself up in many ways, and I think I learned early on to just be kind to myself and to kind of just let it go. You know, I sort of thought, you know, I think that it came a bit. It's called it's called resilience and self-reliance, isn't it? So I only had myself to be reliant on, so I kind of just gave myself a break. You know.
Well, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Because
but
those two things don't normally go together, do they?
No.
Could have beaten yourself up about it, whatever it was, but you didn't.
I've always been my own best friend. You know, the opposite to my own worst enemy. I'm not saying I haven't had times
Amazing.
hated myself, because I have, and I still have very many like issues with guilt and stuff like that, particularly connected to my children and my divorce and things like that. But even then, you know, in the cold light of day, I can still say I did the right thing, because, you know, I spent long enough deliberating it anyway. So, but as we've said many times today, that's another podcast.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, we could talk forever. So if the listener wants to get hold of you or to be able to make contact with you, how would you suggest is the best way to do that? On your, you have Instagram, don't you?
I do have Instagram and I do have Facebook.
Yeah.
And
that's
so yes, at Wildoak Workshops.
Yeah. And to find out what you do. And
yeah, I mean, I'm delighted to speak to people on the telephone. I really do love speaking to people.
Yeah,
I do. So
we won't give out a telephone number though, Katie.
Call me.
I know I've only got 3 listeners, but
or email. But yes, I promise to look at my social media pages. And that's another conversation, even though it sometimes brings me out in a neck crash. I promise to respond. I will.
Okay, so I'll put that up. I usually do little things
Thank
at the
you.
bottom, so I'll put that up. And let me just, I'm not wearing my glasses because I've hurt my eye, so I can't see a damn thing. So I've probably been looking over here the whole time. But thank you very much, Katie. It's been really interesting, and
it's been gorgeous to speak to you.
It has. I'll stop the recording, but I'll still be here. But I'm sure we'll talk again. So thank you, lovey.
Take care.